Honolulu eases additional restrictions as Hawaii's vaccination rates continue to rise. And in sports, the Brooklyn Nets lose Kyrie Irving to ankle injury as Bucks even the series in Game 4. The city of London, Ontario paid homage Saturday to a Muslim family deliberately mowed down by the driver of a pickup truck in an attack that has shocked Canadians and which Prime Minister Justin Trudeau denounced as terrorist. 4 members of the Afzal family, a man and his wife, their teenage daughter, and his mother, were out for a walk in their London neighborhood Sunday when a 20-year-old man in a black pickup truck drove into them on purpose, according to authorities. A 5th family member, a 9-year-old boy, was seriously injured but is recovering. Funeral services for 46-year-old Salman Afzal, his 44-year-old wife Madia, their 15-year-old daughter Yumna, and Salman's 74-year-old mother Talat are set for early Saturday afternoon in the London Islamic Center. A ceremony open to the public is planned on a nearby football field. People also paid homage Friday in Quebec City, where a January 2017 mosque shooting claimed 6 lives. The latest attack has fueled debate about the prevalence of Islamophobia in Canada, and within the Muslim community, has heightened fears that displaying outward signs of religious affiliation can make a person a target. The Imam Ajri Anwar from the Islamic Center tells a public network that he hoped the ceremony would help people grieve and bring some people closure. In a separate interview, Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan says the attack had shocked people across Pakistan. He calls on the international community to take action against hate websites, which created hatred amongst human beings. He says, "The problem is, at the moment, there is not enough motivation that some international leaders or leaders in the Western countries actually don't understand this phenomenon." 20-year-old Nathaniel Veltman, who has no criminal record and no link to any extremist group, has been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 of attempted murder. Police who say the attack was planned and motivated by hatred have not ruled out adding terrorism-related charges. Trudeau has promised to step up the fight against extremist groups. Following the attack, Canadian deputies adopted a non-binding resolution introduced by the left-leaning New Democratic Party, calling for a national summit on Islamophobia this summer. The option to advance a second dose appointment is only available for the Pfizer vaccine in Quebec. Eagle News correspondent Kat Concepcion has the details.
The Ministry of Health and Social Services specifies that given the deliveries planned for the moment, the option of advancing the administration of the second dose is only possible for people who have received a first dose of the drug Pfizer vaccine, as it is recommended that the second dose be of the same vaccine as that given in the first dose. The timing of the administration of the second dose is dependent on vaccine arrivals. For the moment, only doses of Pfizer's vaccine are delivered in sufficient quantity to allow the advance on Quebec.ca. It should be noted, however, that advancing the appointment for the second dose is a possible option, but not mandatory. The already scheduled appointments which were made when the first dose was administered will be honored, and the necessary doses for all vaccines will be available. The next vaccine deliveries from Moderna or AstraZeneca will be confirmed shortly and should allow the early delivery of the second dose via the website as well. For the AstraZeneca vaccine, there are still doses available in walk-in clinics to receive a second dose. Thus, people who received a first dose 8 weeks ago and wishing to advance their appointment can go to a walk-in clinic. However, if a person who received the AstraZeneca vaccine in the first dose wishes to obtain a second dose of a different vaccine, they should wait until their initial appointment and request a change of vaccine on the spot. People aged 80 and over who have received a first dose of Pfizer's vaccine can, if they wish, advance their appointment for the second dose of vaccine. According to the schedule for advancing the second dose established, it will be turn of people aged 75 and over who have received a first dose of Pfizer's vaccine to be able to change their appointment for the second dose. The objective that all Quebecers be adequately vaccinated before August 31st is maintained. Kat Concepcion, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
The COVID 19 pandemic continues to create stress and anxiety for many Canadians. Eagle News correspondent Kathleen May Pangan tells us why.
The COVID-19 pandemic continues to create stress and anxiety for many Canadians, particularly those who do not have ready access to the regular support networks. Through the Wellness Together Canada online portal, people of all ages across the country can access immediate, free, and confidential mental health and substance use supports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As COVID-19 activity continues, Canada is tracking a range of epidemiological indicators to monitor where the disease is most active, where it is spreading, and how it is impacting the health of Canadians in public health, laboratory, and healthcare capacity. At the same time, the Public Health Agency of Canada is providing Canadians with regular updates on COVID-19 vaccines administered, vaccination coverage, and ongoing monitoring of vaccine safety across the country. Since the start of the pandemic, there have been 1,394,145 cases of COVID-19 and 25,761 deaths reported in Canada. These cumulative numbers tell us about the overall burden of COVID-19 illness to date. They also tell us, together with results of serological studies, that a large majority of Canadians remain susceptible to COVID-19. As immunity is still building up across the population, public health measures and individual precautions are crucial for COVID-19 control. Thanks to measures in place in heavily affected areas, the strong and steady declines in disease trends continues, with current reported active cases 22,861, down by 75% since the peak of the third wave in Canada. With a considerable decline in infection rates nationally, the overall number of people experiencing severe and critical illness is also declining. Provincial and territorial data indicate that an average of 2,024 people with COVID-19 were being treated in Canadian hospitals each day during the most recent 7-day period, June 1 to 7, which is 22% fewer than last week. As vaccine eligibility expands, Canadians are urged to get vaccinated and support others to get vaccinated as vaccines become available to them. However, regardless of our vaccination status, it is important to remain vigilant, continue following local public health advice, and consistently maintain individual practices that keep us and our families safer, even as we're beginning to see the positive impacts of the COVID-19 vaccines. Canada's chief medical officers of health and other health professionals across the country are closely monitoring vaccine safety, effectiveness, and optimal use to adapt approaches. As the science and situation evolves, public health is committed to providing clear and evidence-informed guidance in order to keep everyone in Canada safe and healthy. Reporting for Eagle News, I'm Kathleen May Pangan. We live in interesting times.
In Toronto, the Iglesia Ni Cristo organizes a community blood donation drive through the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation. Here's Eagle News correspondent Joshua Santillana for the report.
Last month of May was regarded as Asian Heritage Month in Canada. Throughout the whole month, Canadian Blood Services worked with their 4 national Asian partners in the country, one of which is the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation of the Church of Christ. Through their united and coordinated efforts, members of the Church of Christ in Greater Toronto donated blood as part of their annual campaign to help those in need. Every weekend that month, Church of Christ members schedule themselves accordingly to go to different branches of the Canadian Blood Services in the Greater Toronto Area. At the end of their month-long campaign, more than 300 donors from the Church of Christ gave their blood at several blood donation clinics such as Bloor, Richmond Hill, Oshawa, Ellesmere, and Heartland areas. On Friday, June 10th, the Canadian Blood Services recognized the efforts of the Church of Christ members and the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation through a commemorative ceremony held at one of the chapels of the Church of Christ in Toronto. The ceremony was attended by Canadian Blood Services representatives and select ministers of the Church of Christ. A special certificate of appreciation was presented and given to the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation. A short video program was also held, all following public health protocols still in place here in the province of Ontario.
We've been so fortunate for what the Church of Christ has done in support of patients in partnership with Canadian Blood Services. When the pandemic hit early last year, it was so scary, and we saw a drastic drop in organizations and partnerships who normally make up about a quarter of our donations. 70% drop in that type of donation. In the Church of Christ last May, when everybody still was, the pandemic was new, there was a lot of worry, they still came out and donated, especially in Ontario. This year, we had over 400 participants across Canada with the Church of Christ coming out and donating. It was, I think, our second largest partnership activity throughout COVID. So thankful and so in awe of your commitment to patients and the community. And I can't thank the congregation and the leadership enough for that support, because there's always a need for blood, and it doesn't go away even though there's a pandemic. It's there, the patients need it, and your organization came out. Lots of beautiful pictures on social media. It looks like people had fun. I hope they did. And we also appreciate that awareness, because it's showing other people that you can still get together separately, but you get together and you do something community oriented in support of the people that are really vulnerable right now.
Indeed, even at this time of a global pandemic, there is always a way and a reason to show kindness and generosity within the community. In Toronto, Joshua Santillana, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
More to come when we return. You're watching Eagle News Canada.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net25.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization, startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights, sharpen your instincts for smart decision-making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News Canada. I'm Anthony Sevilla from Vancouver, British Columbia. Honolulu moves to Tier 4 effective immediately, allowing larger group sizes outdoors and improved operations for businesses. Joining us is Eagle News correspondent Alfred Asenas from our Hawaii Bureau for more on this latest development. Hello, Alfred.
Aloha, Anthony. So it was a pleasant surprise last Friday, which was a state holiday, which Kamehameha Day. Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi made this announcement and emphasized a modified Tier 4, keeping in mind that the reopening strategies were developed last summer when there was a lot of uncertainties, and now they put up some updated guidance. Just to highlight a few, up to 25 people are now allowed in social gatherings outdoors. And for those wishing to get married in Hawaii, outdoor venues are now permissible for up to 200 guests. 200 guests. So there's a whole lot more modifications and more guidance to follow. But let's watch some highlights on Mayor Blangiardi's speech, especially at the very end when he assures those still planning to visit Hawaii, like yourself, Anthony, that Hawaii is a safe place to visit, even against COVID-19. Check it out.
If you might have noticed in the language, we talked about a modified Tier 4, and that's because the tiers, when they were written, which were prior to our getting into office, really, quite honestly, there was a lot of guesswork in Tier 4. And so now that we got to this moment in time, it really had a lot to do with where the Department of Health was comfortable with some of the things that were put down, and probably the biggest one had to do with internal or indoor gatherings of 25. So one of the things we did is we kept that at 10 at this point in time. Is that the vaccines have proven to be highly effective, and in that regard, we are a well-vaccinated marketplace. I expect, now that we know that more than 60% of our people have received at least one vaccine, that as the model goes, that somewhere around the end of this month, maybe the latest 1st of July, hopefully that we will have been at 60% fully vaccinated. And then I think at that time, you can anticipate that we'll try to ease restrictions even more. You know, quite honestly, as I look at all of you, we're outdoors and you're still all wearing your mask. And as I drove over here, even though we've lifted the face mask for outdoor situations, I still see lots and lots of our local people walking around wearing their mask. So that's the good news, is our community, we know, is very sensitive and very aware and very respectful of taking care of each other.
So, Anthony, you know, we're still getting new cases every day. As a matter of fact, the latest is that there were 36 new cases reported today, 104 yesterday, but we're not seeing any spike of any sort exponentially. So you got your peaks and valleys, but that's what the city as well as the state is looking at, some consistency in keeping them down. And sadly, of course, 506 people have lost their lives to COVID-19, 0 today. But the big news is that 54% of the state is fully vaccinated, 60% with at least one dose of the vaccine. So that's the latest for you, Anthony, for your consideration, please.
That's really good news, Alfred. But before you go, can you tell us how Hawaii's tourism industry is coming along?
So as of last Friday, Hawaii tourism experts estimated more than 30,000 arrivals to the islands. Now, those are good numbers given that they were numbers in pre-pandemic conditions. Now, that's pretty much those coming from the mainland U.S. Our international markets, namely Japan and Canada, our two biggest foreign markets, are still working their way up, obviously because of situations in their home countries. Given that businesses are trying to catch up now that there's opportunities for increased capacity. Now they're trying to hire more people. That alone is already a challenge when you have the HR management communities trying to help these businesses fill in some jobs. So something to look forward to. And a lot of experts believe things are going to look up and more optimistic later in the year, particularly during the holidays. Anthony.
Thank you, Alfred, for your report. Now let's go to sports. The Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks freaked out the Nets in Game 4 of their Eastern Conference semifinal series to even up at 2 games apiece. Brooklyn suffered a blow to their rotation as Kyrie Irving went down with an ankle injury in the second quarter, leaving Pfizer Forum on a walking boot and crutches. Head coach Steve Nash gives us the update, plus Jeff Green weighs on the loss of Kyrie Irving. Take a listen.
X-rays were negative, but we'll have to see how it goes tomorrow in further tests and treatment. We lost a great player during the game, which was tough. We didn't play particularly well. Thought we had a pretty good start. Level dropped a little bit. They got going on some transition breakdowns. They started getting 3 balls going and some offensive rebounds, some 50-50s, and got a little separation before the half. And then we struggled in the second half. So, we missed him, obviously, but it was a big adjustment tonight to play without him and James. But, that we've had that type of year. So we got to find a way to figure it out, to look at the tape and get better.
One of our guys go down, but, like we always have been through the year, is next man up. And, they went on a run and we just couldn't bounce back. So, there's no excuses. It's, everybody's prepared. Everybody's ready. I'm just glad that it's, just sprain and nothing more. And hopefully, he can heal up in the next 48.
Joining us from New York is Eagle News correspondent Tenny Samage. Tenny, are the Nets in trouble, granted if Irving and James Harden are out for the remainder of the series?
Yes, definitely. Because I don't think the Nets defense can stop the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. And if you combine Giannis's game and Chris Middleton, they are very deadly, which is why they lost Game 3 on Saturday, which a game that they shouldn't have lost, considering that the score was 86-83. They won on the Bucks won on a game-winning 3-pointer by Drew Holiday. But without the big two of Harden and Irving, it's going to take Kevin Durant probably a 60-point game for the next 3 games in order for the Nets to win this series against the Bucks. Just my analysis.
The Nets improve on for Game 5.
Well, definitely they have to play better defense. I mean, they've been playing great defense considering that the Nets are not a defensive team. But in order to win Game 5, the Nets going to have a big game from Durant and also from the bench. So I'm weighing on Bruce Brown, Landry Shamet. Those bench guys got to step up their game.
The Nets were up 2-0, but since the Bucks are back, since the Bucks are now showing signs of life, do you like their chances in taking the series against the Nets?
I do. I've always been a fan of the Bucks, and the last 2 seasons where they were the favorite to even make the NBA Finals and even win the championship, thanks to the MVP seasons of Giannis Antetokounmpo. This might be their chance because they weren't the heavy favorites. All attention was on the Brooklyn Nets because of Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and when they acquired James Harden, and then they acquired Blake Griffin from the Pistons. So this created this whole super team that the Nets were going to be like the Golden State Warriors, but now they're down 2 of their best players. And I think the Bucks have to execute that in order to beat the Nets. And I think if they beat the Nets, they can beat the Sixers or the Hawks and go to the NBA Finals and even have a chance to win this year's Larry O'Brien Trophy.
Well, thanks, Tenny, for your report. Well, that's our program for today. Join us again next week as we bring stories that matter to you. Visit our website at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. And also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and on YouTube. Well, thank you for watching. I'm Anthony Sevilla. We live in interesting times.